Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Race to 100. I'm Neil Patang.
I am Rick Thorcell, and we are on episode number 65.
65, man.
65. Let me ask you, do we have something interesting to talk about today?
We always have something interesting to talk about, bro. What do you mean?
What are we talking about? What interesting thing are we talking about today?
So, the other day, right?
Yeah.
What had happened was this man was pulled over with his girl and the daughter of his lady. And he wasn't breaking any laws. No, let me retract that statement. He had a broken tail light. That is a traffic violation.
Broken tail light.
Neither have I, but it is a traffic violation, and the police can pull you over for it. He had a conversation with a police officer. His girl was filming the interaction.
4-year-old daughter in the back seat.
4-year-old daughter in the back seat. The guy said to the police officer he had a concealed carry permit, had a firearm on him. Before reaching into his pocket to grab it,
What happened first?
the police officer shot him.
No, the police officer asked for his license and registration.
And he reached
So
into
he said, "Officer, I just want to let you know, I have a concealed weapon." And he's like, "Okay, license and registration, please." And so he reached for his license and registration, and then
he lit him up. He sprayed him.
how many times? 4 times.
4 times, point
times.
blank, in front of his girlfriend and their child. Maybe it wasn't his child.
No, it wasn't his child.
A child in the back seat.
Yeah.
And this happened in Minnesota. What was your initial thought process when you saw this?
I was so angry. And I'm still angry. I just for something, especially the day after you had the Sterling shooting.
Yeah.
It was
Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
It was just. I mean, my mind was just. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that something like this could happen. The officer asked for his license and registration, and here you have this incredible woman, keeping calm while the officer is just boom, 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 boom into her boyfriend, and she is responding by not only calmly saying, "Please, just calm down, it's okay," but also taping it and putting it on the web for everyone to see. I mean, for somebody to have that calm and composure, that for me was the number one sign that we have an issue.
Where were the
How in the world should anyone, it doesn't matter if you're black or white.
Question: where were the NRA enthusiasts when this happened?
Oh, you want to know what?
Where were your NRA enthusiasts when this happened?
Here's the fun part. The NRA refused to issue a statement on this when they have issued a statement on all their shootings, especially when it comes to white domestic terrorists. They always issue a statement saying it's not the gun, it's the person. Yeah. And here in this instance, nothing. And then, when somebody called them up, this is a fun fact, when they called them up, the NRA spokesman, or a gun rights advocacy spokesman, got very, very upset and said, more or less, "How dare you question us about this topic," and then hung up on them.
He was.
I mean, really? Really gun rights advocates? Really NRA? He was really Wayne LaPierre?
He was a gun-owning, tax-paying American citizen, and without any sort of criminal record, full of ambition, drive.
A good guy. He was liked by everyone. He worked at a school. He was well loved by the community.
Yeah, he did have cornrows though, and let's be honest though. I mean,
you're not a fan of the cornrows?
I mean, come on, I can't hate on a brother for having cornrows when I used to rock them once upon a time.
You did used to rock them once.
But that's besides the point. Hey, listen up, America. For those of you guys out there that don't understand where we are coming from, just because a guy has cornrows, that doesn't make him a thug, okay? Just because a guy is cool and has swagger, that doesn't mean that he is endangering others around him and breaking the law. And just because he's black and legally able to own a gun, that doesn't mean he deserves to be shot point blank range in front of his woman and the child behind them.
And for me, there is no excuse. There is no excuse for those cops. 3- and 4-year veterans, right there. There was no excuse. No excuse. I can't think of any reason.
You know what's funny, Rick? People suggest that the police aren't properly trained. Like, it's like there's almost like there's a divide. There's there's some sort of a shift or separation between how the police are mentally trained to handle white perpetrators and how the police are mentally trained to handle minority perpetrators. I don't know what the hell goes on in these police academies. I mean, people are talking about mental screenings for guys trying to get into the police academy. I mean, I don't know if those necessarily would help, but I believe that they are mentally and physically trained differently when handling perpetrators of different races.
And in the same way that
it's like you see it's like the fragile baby handled with care, but you got the stronger, less fragile baby. Not suggesting that whites are more fragile than blacks, but
we're more fragile than blacks. I'll say it.
This guy's funny. He said it, y'all, not me. But what I'm saying, right, is that it's like the kid you handle with care versus the kid you could afford to be a little rougher with. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? He's black, man. You could rough him up a little bit. He could probably take it, but be careful now. That's white delicacy right there.
White delicacy.
You know
that
what
sounds
I'm saying?
like a great dessert.
You know what I'm saying?
White delicacy.
Hey, man, we should treat ourselves to some food after this.
Some white delicacy.
But I mean, yeah, it was just kind of unfortunate to see, man, because.
You know, what can you do in an instance like that? It's like, even if you are following the law, you can still get shot. And that is the craziest part, is that you had such a clear example of a good person who was pulled over for a broken tail light, which is just a random thing, and then he's shot dead. That was his only crime.
He had cornrows.
And he had cornrows.
And he had cornrows.
And
maybe smoked some marijuana in the last 48 hours, and he listened to rap music, and those guys talk about killing, so he must have been doing something wrong. Yeah, it's very unfortunate, and I've realized that I'm done. Today is the day where I stop trying to rationalize with the irrational. You can't reason with the unreasonable. It's virtually impossible.
But what's the answer then? Do you purge them from society? Do you purge them from your life? I mean, that doesn't mean that they're not going to stop existing.
I'll just do what my cousin Dominic does. Ignore them.
You can ignore them, but when you ignore a problem, it doesn't mean it goes away.
Talking about the problem with people that actually want to correct the problem is more constructive than trying to convince some, and I hate insulting the intelligence of others, but some idiot that fails to acknowledge the facts before them.
The reality of the situation, I take a different approach. I think the reality of the situation is, in the same way that you've seen movement on the LGBTQ issues, it is through personal experiences, it is through intimate conversations, and it is through dialogue in which people grow and evolve. I think you have people who are ardent. You look at the Bush administration. You had Dick Cheney, the Vice President of the United States, shot a guy in the face. But his daughter came out as gay. She was identified as a lesbian, and he changed his position because, oh my goodness, suddenly somebody I know is a lesbian. You can't do the same thing with race and say, oh look, suddenly my daughter is suddenly black. Like, that doesn't happen. So you have to take the extra step, and it's all about continuing to have civil conversation, discourse with people who you vehemently agree. We did some episodes early on where we had a comedian going out and interviewing the KKK. Now, obviously, they're not going to agree on the issues after a couple of conversations, but he said in post-interviews that he saw that there were a couple of people who, after having a civil conversation with him and a dialogue with him, that they're just like, this black guy, he's not a bad guy. And he said he felt that vibe change over the course of that civil conversation.
We'll get to this. We'll get to this episode 99 when we talk about like the whole like N-word talk. We'll get to this, but like I remember in school, any body of color who lives in the suburbs that comes from a middle class educated family can attest to this. I remember Rick's like going to school and like kids like would be reluctant to like talk to me, and then like they would like hang out with me and see that, hey, like I'm just a regular kid that likes the same things that you do. And I remember like after school, like it was always towards the end of the summer, they say, Patang, you're actually not that bad. They would any middle class minority suburban educated person has had this conversation before. And at first you're like, is he saying that because people said bad things about me? for my character or because they perceive me to be a different way.
Well, you obviously know what the answer to that question is.
Am heavy on the melanin and
heavy on the melanin,
real heavy. And you know what I'm saying? Like you think back to it, Ricks. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you're like, in hindsight, they probably meant something else. But whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's a growing pain that we deal with.
People changed, right? I mean, in whatever small way that was. At the very least, all this hatred that you see against black people from a small portion of the white community, that even that can change, I believe. In the same way that LGBTQ issues have changed through dialogue and conversation and constant presence within one's life, so too can this conversation change. And that's the thing, that part of the reason why I wanted to do this Race to 100 series was that this dialogue that we're having right now, this isn't a dialogue that happens anywhere else. I don't know another YouTube show, and I would love to, anyone who's watching, I would love to know any other channel who has a racially diverse crew of individuals who specifically focuses on the dynamics of their own experiences. Me as a white person, you as a black person. And what that means, and how we can overcome that. Because I think both of us have been changed by this dialogue.
Yeah, you hear that, Tommy Loren?
Oh my goodness! Wow, stay tuned for episode number 66.
Man, you read my mind.
Isn't that funny?
You read my mind, dude. This is pretty tight right now, dude. I don't know.
We have our topic for tomorrow.
Let me tell you something. Our next episode, we're coming for you, Tommy Loren, because you've been talking crazy. No,
I gotta do my research.
Seriously, listen. That is a
I've never
very
heard this person.
intelligent. That is an intelligent, successful woman who has worked hard to get to the position she's at. And I cannot fault her for it. But she is talking crazy, and she must be put on blast. And that's what we're going to do for episode 66.
All right.
But for now, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for more episodes and access to Race to 100. We send our prayers and thoughts to the family of Philando Castile, who was unfortunately slain.
And support to the Black Lives Movement as they continue their push for a voice in this conversation.
Racial equality. So again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more episodes to Race to 100. None of this would be possible without you guys. I'm Neil Batang. Thank you for tuning in. Ricks, you want to add something?
We will catch you next time on the Race to 100. Peace.